Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into UModeler X Pro to explore one of its most versatile features, the Style Group. This essential tool works seamlessly with the curve mesh component to elevate your 3D modeling experience. In this video, we're going to give you an overview of the Type tool, which defines the connection style between curve points, and the Volume tool, which transforms your curves into fully realized 3D shapes. Let's take a look closer. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and click on the icon here in the toolbar. So you notice that the toolbar changed just a little bit. This is going to be the style group. And so if we click here, it's going to open up this menu on the right side where it says style, and you're going to have two different types of tools. You're going to have type, and then you're going to have volume. And below that, you're going to have tool properties. And then within these tool properties, you're going to have the ability to change the type of spline that you can use. And below that, you have the ability to close the spline. So let's take a look at the editor here. So in the middle of our screen here, I'll just double click on here and so I can rotate around it. We have our spline. And what we can do is select the spline's points and move them around. And so that's really nice. So you can select these points, move them around, and manipulate them in any axis direction that you want to. All right. And so what I'm going to do now is go down here where you can actually change the different types. Now, before I change the types, I actually want to mention the ability to edit the actual spine in terms of the insert or delete. So for instance, if you want to insert, you simply select insert and point anywhere on the spline that you want. You can actually add additional points, just like that. And then of course you can select those points and move them as needed. Now, for instance, if you need to delete a point, you have to make sure that you have the point selected and then you select delete and it will delete the point. And you can also select multiple points at the same time. So I'll select 2 and it'll do that. And then I'm going to select this one and delete that one. Great. And so now we're kind of back down to the default number of points here. All right. Now in here, if we want to go back, we click on type, then we can see the curve mesh type. And so what we're going to do is select the first one, which is line. And as you can see, it's self-explanatory. It's going to be more of a line as opposed to a curve. But of course, you can still manipulate these like so. Next is going to be the Ket Mule Ram, and that one's going to be a different type of spline and points. So we can do that as well, move that around as needed. And then the next one is going to be the Bezier. So this one's really nice because you can actually have a lot of control, a lot of fine control with this one. So you can actually select it, move this around, move it forward. If you want to go this way with this, you can. If you want to select these points, you can, and you can actually manipulate these as needed. So that's really wonderful. And then you can kind of really get in there and get accurate with how you want to get these curves looking the way you want. That's really great. Now, the next type of type is the B-spline. So basically, it's similar to the ROM. The only difference, I believe, here is that the points are not on the line. They run around it, so they don't run through it. And so you can still manipulate here. And of course, you can still do inserting on here, but those inserts are not on the line itself. It's on the portion outside of that. So that's really neat and useful as well. And you can find different use cases for it. So I'm going to go ahead and go back a couple steps. Great. And what I'll do is also click on close so you can see how that works. So basically, if we select closed, it's simply creating a line between the 2 points. So no matter which style we have, or no matter even if we insert a different line, it's still going to give us the ability to add, delete, and then you can just have a complete loop. So that's really cool. All right. And of course, if we were to go back to type and remove the closed, it's just going to separate it at the 2 endpoints. So this just lets you know this is the endpoint, this is the start point. So I'm just going to kind of go back to our original shape. All right, awesome. All right, and so next we have the other tool within our style group, which is the volume. So volume is going to be about actually applying a mesh around this particular spline. So the profile type is point. So this one is just exactly just showing you the points that you have. And let me really quick go back to a different tool here. I'm going to go here and then I'll go back to volume and then I'll click on disk. So disk is going to be one that I'm going to use probably the most. So what you can do is actually change a few settings here in your tool properties. You have the disk resolution. So right now it's based on 6. So 6 is going to be the side. So if we were to reduce this to 3, we're going to get a triangle there, as you can see, right? So that's going to be the more you want it more round, or if you want a square, then you want to go with more of a cube shape, then you would go with 4. And the lowest number is going to be a try because that's going to connect all the different sides. All right, and I'll just put it on 4 for now. And then you have your different segments. So you have your different segments. Let me go ahead and actually turn on the wireframe so we can see how the segments work. So if I were to decrease this to just 3, or let's just say 2, and let's go ahead and increase this so that we can kind of see what's going on here. And I'll just go ahead and move this out so that we can kind of get a better idea of what's happening. So because we changed the segments are going to basically be between the different parts of the points here. So if I reduce or increase this to 3, you can tell that it's increasing in here and it's becoming smoother in those areas. And as I reduce it, it becomes more fixed, right? And if we kind of combine that with that, you can kind of see how that can start to kind of work together. All right. And then they also have length. So you can base it on length or you can base it on segments. It's the choice is up to you. That's just some tools that you kind of want to play with to kind of get some ideas of how that all works. And then you have the ability to choose a cap or no cap. So that's basically removing the endpoints or the end faces of the actual mesh. So that would be pretty cool. And we have the smooth surface. So this is basically, if I were to go here, if you actually click there, now you can see the faceted. And then if you do smooth surface, it's smooth surface. So kind of gives you an idea what that's going to look like when you turn this into an actual mesh. All right. And then you have the ability to flip. So flipping is flipping the normals so that you can have the faces face inward as opposed to outward. So this is super useful as well. I personally use it for, or I will probably use it for more like level design type of things and creating like inside environment type of things. Of course, there's many different ways that you can go about it, but I'll just kind of play around and show you guys how I may actually approach it for fun. And then you can use like rotation and you can do scale. There's just lots of different manipulation points you can do and use with this disk here. All right. The next type is the curve mesh. So the curve mesh is interesting. It's really just giving you the ability to create a mesh based on a curve. So let's just, for the sake of this, I'm going to take this curve mesh that we already have created, and I'm just going to click it and drag it into this area. So what I just did is actually use this same mesh to create this curve to create the shape of the mesh. And so you can do that and you can come up with some interesting shapes here. And of course, if you need to insert different points to continue to build on that, you can do that. And so you can let your imagination run with that. So that one's pretty cool. So I'll go back and I'll actually remove this so that we have our curve here. All right, next what we're going to do is take a look at the next volume type here, and what we have is the mesh. Mesh is actually pretty nice. So to demonstrate that, we're going to need a mesh. Now, the first thing you think is let's put a mesh into the scene or game object, I would say. And if you were to take this item and try to drag it onto here, it's not actually going to work. What it's looking for is the actual mesh that makes up the shape. So what I'm going to do is delete this. It's already a prefab. And so I'm going to go in my project folder here, and down here I have this torus. Now, if you have a prefab down here, when you open it up, you're going to see this file type. And this is actually the mesh that it's looking for. So what you can do is take this, select it, and do a Control D. And when you do a Control D, it's going to create this file here. And what you can do then is go ahead and click on the curve mesh, click it and drag it directly in here. And then you'll be able to see that mesh right here on your screen, following along the line of this here, which is pretty nice. Awesome. So the different tool properties you have here is your direction. So you can change the direction of it. On the Y, you can be the Z. It's just kind of up to you. You can change the mesh deformation. You can change the array automated, and you can change the count as well. And then you have the spacing. And so you can change how far the spacing is. So you have something like this, and then you can do the scale as well. So that's pretty nice. Awesome. Now, another way to use the mesh is using something like creating like a chain. So what I'll do is I've already kind of created the chain. So what I did is I created this mesh using UModeler, and then I selected this and hit Control D to separate this from it, and so that we have this here. So what I'm gonna do is click on my curve mesh here, and I'm gonna click it and replace this. And so if we go in a little closer, what we're gonna see here is our mesh falling along this line, but it doesn't look like what we imagined it. And so what we just need to do is play with the correct direction. And there you have it. And so now we have something more like a chain. And so if again, changing your direction will kind of determine what you want and how you're gonna go about this. So we'll just put it back like this. And now we have its chain, and that's actually really nice. So we can kind of create anything almost we want with this. So it's pretty cool. All right. All right. And so the next tool type in here is going to be quad. So quad is a nice feature as well. So when you select quad, what you're doing is giving you the ability to kind of change the profile shape of it. So I'll go ahead and give us something here to play with. Maybe something like this. Awesome. And then what I'm gonna do is go ahead and flip the normals here. And so kind of have something like a hallway. And what we can do is actually change here. So this is kind of changing the shape based on the different points of this quad. So that's going to be these different points here. And so you can kind of manipulate these points here. So for instance, I thought this was a cool idea is if you wanted to change the floor and you wanted to kind of do something like this. I'm going to change this rotation to 0 and go that route. And so say you wanted the roof, or I would say the ceiling to be a little higher, you can do that and do it that way, or you can put an angle on it. It's all up to you, of course. But this is how this works. So you get a good idea of what you're making and why you may be using the tool. Awesome. So once you're done kind of playing and experimenting with things, that's what I did. I just got in here and just started experimenting with things and kind of seeing how these things work. I thought to myself, what else could we do with this once we're done creating our chain or creating our walkway or our hair or whatever it is that we're trying to use the splines for? What you could do at this point is go from the tool mode, which is, you can see there's a wrench, to object mode. Once you're in object mode, what you can actually do is right click on your curve mesh. And if you go down to UModeler X and then merge vertices, here you can click that. You can actually convert this to a mesh, just like you would expect. So now what we can do is select the faces just like you would any other mesh, and you can manipulate those as needed. And so now you can do all types of different things. If we want, we can probably do some loops, loop cuts if we want, and we can select those loop cuts, and you can kind of start really going in and making changes based on what you need. And this could be very useful for different reasons, of course. And of course, then you can go from there. So outside of that, I hope you guys found this video useful. I hope you guys enjoy this tool. Play around with it and see how it can be used in your different projects that you are doing and working with. All right, well, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to stay up to date with the latest features and updates by hitting the subscribe button and clicking the notification bell. More features are coming and you wouldn't want to miss out. I'll see you soon.